super dense over here. This is what it looks like if a fire doesn't come through for many years.
There's lots of Scotch Broom in there. There's so much Scotch Broom in this whole forest, and tons of downed wood over here. Just lots of it.
There's some really tall pines in here too, kind of forming the overstory. Maybe that pine is like 3 feet in diameter. Whoa, what happened here? The forest looks so different. It's changed. Look at all the blackened trunks of all the trees.
Yeah, and I can really see through the trees over here. Unlike where we just were, where it was like really thick with plants, there's just not a lot here compared to where we were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know this was a low severity fire, what we call a good fire. It burned only a couple feet up. You can see even this tree, some dead needles down here, but it's still alive up top. So it burned, but only a couple feet high all the way through.
Wow. Wow. How are our forests changing because of the fire? And how are the places that didn't burn changing?
Yeah, I think we should explore that.
Let's do it.
Hey guys, this is Badger, and I am in the forest on the Woolman property. And last August of the year 2020, we had the Jones Fire come through. And the Jones Fire in some places burned really hot, and in other places not so hot. So you can see behind me, maybe this area didn't burn so hot because it didn't kill all the trees. The fire probably burned a third to a half of the Woolman property, and we're out here studying it now.
Hi, Marty.
Hi.
So what do you want to know about the forest?
Well, I am very lucky. I actually own and manage a very large piece of property that has a lot of trees on it. It's about 250 acres with streams running through it and meadows and forested areas. And I like to understand all those different areas. What grows there, what kind of plants, what kind of flowers, what kind of trees, what kind of bushes, and also what kind of animals live there. And I want to make sure that the habitat that those animals live in, their homes, are really well managed for them to thrive.
So Chris, what are your questions about the forest?
Well, I'm the caretaker here at Woolman, and we don't want to have a fire like we had last year again. And I need to protect the buildings from fire coming too close if there was ever a fire again, and concerned about all the overgrown brush that is still on the east side over here, and invasive species like the Siberian blackberries and Scotch Broom especially, which seems to thrive after a fire has been through. The native peoples that used to take care of the forest here used to do prescribed burns from time to time so that the forest would regenerate in a healthy way that they could utilize, but it also would remove the danger of a massive fire through the undergrowth. That's what I would like to do, and I've been coming up against roadblocks with that. That doesn't seem viable at this time, so I'm trying to find out about ways to mitigate the Scotch Broom, what we can do to remove the undergrowth that is really the fire danger that leads to the trees burning that we saw in places like this behind this last August.
There are so many questions that Woolman wants to answer to learn about their forest and to learn about how to take care of it. Sierra Streams is helping Woolman with land management. Jeff Lauder is a forest ecologist at Sierra Streams. He's someone who studies the forest ecosystem. Jeff has some of his own questions.
Oh, sorry. I'm supposed to start there, aren't I?
That's okay. Jeff, what's your nature name?
Bear.
Good one. What questions do you have about the forest?
So as a forest ecologist, one of the main things that I'm interested in is how forests change kind of naturally over time, and how what we call disturbance, like fire, kind of feeds into that. What kind of things can a fire do to a forest to maybe change its normal pathway of change? So for example, here we have a forest that burned pretty low severity. There's still a lot of vegetation here, but most of it's dying and will be dead over the next year or so. Most of this lower understory stuff that we call, all the things that are just a few feet high, burned. And then just across the trail here, we have an unburned plot. And obviously they look very different. One of the questions that I have isn't necessarily just how different are the forests now after the fire, but how did conditions before the fire influence how it responded to the fire, and how does it then influence how the forest will continue to change into the future? So if it was very dense, did it burn hot? And if it burned hot, what's going on with some of the trees that are still alive? How are they responding? Are there things resprouting? What's going on in the future of this forest?
Lots of questions about change.
Oh yeah.
To help us answer all of these questions that we have about the forest, we're going to look at two sites. The first one is a site that had a low intensity burn.
You would think it's a black oak.
The second site that we're going to look at didn't have a burn at all.
It does have leaves, and the leaves are...
In both of these sites, we're going to set up a transect. A transect is really just a straight line that we've measured out along the forest floor. We walk along the transect and collect data. For example, what's growing next to the transect, or where's the closest tree, and how big is it, and what kind of tree is it? These are all the types of data that we're going to share with you and ask you to help us interpret.